Hi, everyone. This is Ronit on the East Coast, and we are hopelessly unedited and Whiskey's on vacation. I am very fortunate to have I met this young man about 6.5 years ago, and he was in this, it's a different master's program at University of Manchester, but you guys started your programs at the same time and graduated at the same time. And I had the privilege to meet him at the graduation. His name is Steveen Ulysses. And then right now he's working on his PhD at University of Glasgow, and his area of research is rethinking Haitian Vodou. And he also has a book project that is coming out, and the focus is on Haitian drumming and drummers in the Haitian tradition, with particular focus on the Haitian diaspora. And Stephen, do you have anything to add to have people get to know you a little bit?
Um, no, I think that's pretty much everything. I think the only thing is the book project that I'm working on is in collaboration with the Haitian Studies Institute based in Brooklyn. So I'm working with
Oh,
Dr. Lily Sarah, who's the head of the institute in Brooklyn, with Jaira Placide, who's also working for the institute. So we're doing this project together. Yeah.
perfect. Do you have any idea on about when the book is going to come out?
I don't have, we have like estimations yeah,
Okay,
so maybe late next year,
okay,
that should be something that's coming out. But with books, things don't often
right.
go as you plan. So it's got
Yep, yep.
that's our time for now, but we'll see if, yeah, yeah.
Wow, really look forward to it. Okay. So I just have a list of questions. So my, okay, I'm like stupid, just like most people.
You're
I
not.
think my understanding of voodoo is, of course, Hollywood and things like that. And I assume the word voodoo is originated from an African language or a family of the related languages. What does it actually mean? Let's start with that.
Yeah. So the word voodoo itself comes from the phone word. So there's a lot of different interpretations of what
Mm,
Vodou is, but I think for me, the way that I conceptualize it in my work, in my research, I present Vodou as an inheritance. So
okay.
we know that Vodou came from part of Western Africa, made its way to the Caribbean, more so in Haiti, and the way that I see it, it's very distinct from what is
Okay.
practiced in Africa. So it's something that's been influenced by all of these African traditions that were brought to the Caribbean. So Haitian voodoo itself, as much as it is distinct, is not completely separate, but it is
Okay.
its own practice in a lot of ways. And one of the reasons why I try to frame it as an inheritance is because of so many people interpret it like very differently. But I think the one thing that all of these different meanings of voodoo sort of cherish is the fact that it is something that is inherently Haitian. It is something that is a gift to Haitian
Mm,
people. Of course, that gets a bit more complicated as we start to talk about like the Haitian diaspora and what that is.
mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's how I define voodoo. But there are so many different ways of explaining what it is,
Okay.
or what it
Okay.
means to different people. Yeah.
So you kind of gave a little bit of the background already. There's some history, right?
Yeah.
Coming from the slave trade and stuff. And I'm sure you're more equipped than me to trying to explain. It's just like the little research that I've done. As I told you before this, I pretty much only knew about the Hollywood depiction
Yeah.
of voodoo,
Yeah.
sensationalization, and all that. So, can you give a quick, you know, 5-minute summary on where it came from, the influence, and what it actually is about?
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. So, okay, let's start with this. A lot of the Vodou and Haiti, and I'm gonna say Vodus in this way because
Hmm.
Vodou is not a monolith. There's so many different different ways that it is observed. So I think a lot of the time, especially in with Hollywood productions, you see Vodou being portrayed in certain ways that's very specific. So if you're watching shows like American Horror Story, you're
Yeah.
watching these different shows, you see Vodou being portrayed in a very specific way that is very sensationalized, very outside of what the practice actually is and what it represents. But to go back of to the beginning, I guess, of like Haitian Vodou, it's the fact that we do know it comes from a lot of the influence comes from West African countries, what we have
Hmm.
now as Nigeria, Benin, Togo. So all of these religious traditions that were already known as part of the whole Vodun philosophy is sort
Okay.
of like where the Haitian Vodou comes from. So, but we also have a lot of influences from the Congo regions. But one of the things that I've noticed as well, the West African influence is more prominent, it's more visible.
Mm.
So one of the things that I talk about is the Yorubification of Vodou. So even though Vodou is made up of all of these different African spiritual traditions, we tend to see mainly the West African element. These are the ones that are
Okay.
most visible when we think of Vodou, and not just Vodou, for other Afro-diasporic religious
Hmm.
traditions as well. Um, I don't think there was a singular way that Vodou got to Haiti because we know the slave trade, we know how colonization worked and all of these things, but there were so many different people coming from so many different places coming to the Caribbean region. And we start to think about Catholicism as well and the way that it is so deeply embedded in Vodou. So I think when we're talking about Vodou, as much as it is an African derived religious tradition or African derived way of life, there's a lot of Catholic influence in it as well. And these things were done very purposefully to sort of safeguard the practice, to make sure that it didn't get erased because of colonial and imperial persecution. So a lot of the saints, the Catholic saints, were sort of like used or repurposed to represent Haitian Vodou divinities known as Loa. So you might have a really famous one is the photo of the Black Madonna being used
Okay.
to represent one of one of the Loa called Ezeli Danton, who's a protector of women and children. So you see these parallels a lot between Catholicism, African religious traditions, and how together they sort of created Vodou. And I know a lot of people don't really give credit to these connections, but I think it's
Hmm.
important as much as Vodou is a tool against colonialism and imperialism, it still managed to do that by using colonial apparatus to sort of like do that. It sort of used the same tools that were geared to their destruction to sort of challenge the whole hegemony and so on and so forth. But there's also a lot of like indigenous elements as well that often gets buried and Vodou, which I think is something I'm really passionate about bringing to the forefront. Yeah, so I think that it's so difficult to give a 5 minute summary of
Sure.
Vodou, but yeah,
So let me ask about the Catholicism part. So that's intentionally introduced by the practitioner when
yeah,
they were started to
hmm
practice that their African religion in Haiti, because that is to avoid the slave trader, the
yeah,
colonists, whatever you want to
yeah,
call them, not very kind people, to stop them from practicing.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
it was just a way for them to sort of preserve the tradition whilst very openly, so for to
Mm.
not be persecuted, and also religious enslaved people only used to get these days free to
Oh,
worship and so on and so forth. So
sure.
all of these things play into that. So they just found a way to, okay, if we use a Catholic saint, but we have that very publicly, but then we subscribe. our own African beliefs onto that, then it will just do. So that's how it kind of
Okay.
like started as a way to protect themselves and also to protect the the religious traditions, and eventually it became a very integral part
Mm-hmm.
of the tradition. Because I think one of the things that's very confusing, well, to someone looking from the outside, it can be very confusing if you go to a Vodou ceremony and you see a lot of the saints are in there,
Ah.
white presenting saints. So people have often asked me, well, why are they white? So there's a lot of history there. So it wasn't something that was imposed by colonial masters. It was enslaved people using their agency to sort of to sort of practice an open side without ever being found out, and that happened for centuries.
Mm.
Yeah,
So, you probably don't know this about me. My mind, I'm more like Dana's sister. Our
mm,
minds are kind of going crazy, kind
yeah,
of traverse when you said, the white saint in a voodoo
hmm,
ceremony. And people ask
yeah,
why they're white. And that, have you ever seen the movie Mean Girls?
yes. Oh, you
It's
could just
like,
ask people. Yeah,
if you're from Africa, why are you white? And I think
yeah,
the answer should be you can't just ask people why they're white.
yeah. You can't just ask
Uh,
that.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Actually, it's kind of interesting, and I think it's a very smart thing to do. China has slavery too, a long time ago, and I just think it's a horrible practice, and I'm glad that it, by and large, this doesn't exist anymore. So going back now, so the Hollywood, so everybody said, I know this, you pronounce it Vodou. It's just like how it's supposed to spell. And in Hollywood, everybody's like voodoo is VOO,
Hmm.
DOO. Do you know a story behind it? Is there a distinction? Is this something completely different when you say voodoo compared to, the actual voodoo?
Yeah, I feel like the VOODOO spelling
Mm-hmm.
is what came out of the sensationalized literature about Vodou.
Okay.
So when people were had these imaginings about it being this almost like they added these supernatural elements to Vodou. The idea of zombie that's like
Mm-hmm.
very mainstream now. All of these were sort of kind of like um, bastardized understandings of what goes on in Vodou by people who went and witnessed things that didn't quite understand. So they sort of
Mm-hmm.
created this narrative, this thing that was like very marketable. Um, and that's where that voodoo spelling comes in. But of course, this is not to be confused with a sister tradition, Louisiana voodoo, which is a distinct tradition that's outside of the
Oh.
voodoo thing that people have going on, which is crazy. So I think it's important. And I this is where I feel like it gets really frustrating because Louisiana voodoo is a
Mhm.
practice not dissimilar to voodoo that you find in Haiti. But
Okay.
I think a lot of the time, because of the way Hollywood works and the way that the media works, people conflate Louisiana voodoo, a legitimate tradition, to the
Mm.
idea of voodoo, the marketable, the capitalistic language that people use to sell stuff. Because I'm sure you've seen stuff like voodoo burgers, voodoo drinks and stuff like that. So all of these things are very divorced from Afro-diasporic religious traditions, but it's something that practitioners constantly have to contend with. And I wouldn't even begin to understand what a practitioner of Louisiana voodoo goes through trying to tell people, well, what we're doing is
It's
completely
not.
different
Yeah.
to whatever that is. So yeah, basically that word came from sensationalization of
Okay.
these traditions. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So the zombie and all that, it's funny. this is what I don't understand because a lot of the things that Hollywood sensationalized, right? The dolls, the zombie, and all that. Chinese has the exact same thing, but nobody talks about it. Well, it's not nobody. Old Chinese movies, I've seen them, but Hollywood never capitalized on that, but instead it capitalized on the voodoo religion. And do you feel like it's kind of unfair? Why, do you have an idea of why that got targeted?
Um, I feel like there's a lot of ideas why that
Mm,
got targeted, and I feel like I, it's something that I've thought about as well. Um, uh, because I've watched a lot of even like if we're looking for somewhere that's even closer, if we're talking about a lot of Mexican traditions, the
right.
whole concept of Day of the Dead, and there's also a similar tradition in Vodou, and we talk about the ofrenda in Mexican indigenous and religious traditions. It seems so different to
Mm,
how Day of the Dead and the Vodou context is seen. And this is something that like I've observed. But one of the things I think it goes back to cultural power that
okay.
a nation has and how they're able to sort of like project that power. Because like you mentioned with China, there's a lot of parallels when it comes
Right.
to you know, the focus between Chinese medicine and Haitian medicine.
Mhm.
But then you would say Chinese medicine for the most part, but then you would say Haitian traditional medicine. And I think that's what the problem is. Why, what makes it traditional? It's something that people just do. And I feel like words like traditional in this context put that knowledge system into this backwards thing, as if it's not something
Mhm.
that people
Yeah.
should still be doing. But I think the main thing goes back to power, like what authority, what cultural capital do people have, and how they're able to project these things. Because I know people who are celebrating Day of the Dead who are not Mexican. People are celebrating this in
Right.
the UK, they're celebrating it
Yeah.
all over the world. But it would be very, very unexpected to see a non Vodou practitioner celebrating Gay Day. That's what it's called. But that's
Mhm.
just a name for it. Outside of Haiti and the Haitian diaspora.
Mhm.
And I think it's all about power and how you're able to sort of like take control of your own narrative.
Right.
If you're not able to control your own narrative, then someone else will sort of, tells you what the
Mhm.
narrative is. And I think with Haiti as well, these ideas of zombie and all of these things, from from you know 16th century they've been sort of like happening, they've been sort of like mass produced, and with Hollywood making it seem as if this is
Yeah.
what Vodou is, it's very
Mhm.
difficult to sort of like detangle that, even though work
Correct.
is being done to address these things. I think it's a matter of power and also working to undo harm
Mm.
that's been done for like centuries, and that's why it's so difficult to see it in a positive light, even though these things are changing. Yeah.
Right. So it's funny because a few years ago, I went to, our family was invited to a bat mitzvah, and it was just so great. It's part of the Jewish culture.
Mm,
They practice certain things, and what it came out, what we thought is it's all about the community, friends, and family. So I read a little bit about your research, and it seems like there are a lot of voodoo tradition. It's part of their lives. It's part of
mhm,
the culture.
yeah.
So let's say if I walked into a Haitian family that who practice voodoo, and it's just something that they would do that I would just, oh, thank you, and I wouldn't even know that means something to them. Can you like think of something
Yeah.
like that?
I f- there's so many things like that. I feel like it's something that you would see happen and you wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily know. And this is one of the reason why I think for me I call it religious traditions, mainly because it's more of a tradition than a
Mm-hmm.
religion. But there's so much religious component to it. But
Right.
it's more so something that people do every day.
Mm-hmm.
People wake up and pray. I think one of the I guess ways, one of the most obvious one is this thing called jeté de l'eau. So it's kind of like libation, essentially. So that's something that's done very normal. People of the African diaspora, perform libation all the time. So these sort of things you would see, and also going to someone's home, the type of food as well that they would eat. All of these things sort of like come out of the Vodou tradition, and thinking of like maybe decorations that people would have inside
Mm.
their houses. All of these things speak to Vodou in a different way. So it's in a way, because it's so permeable at every level of the culture, it's very difficult to sort of like see where these things crop up if you don't know what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also when you go to like a ceremony, okay, things might be a bit more obvious, but then when you start to
Yeah.
understand what voodoo actually is, you realize, okay, someone, drinking a tea that they sort of like gathered together from because of the knowledge that they have of like nature. That is voodoo. That is how they see it, being in tune with nature. So, these sort of things, meditating close to nature, that is all part of it. But I
Oh,
think, yeah, all of these things are of what it
okay.
is to be a practitioner. But I think with sensitization, yeah, it's very difficult to think that this is what practitioners are doing, because
So when,
yeah, go on.
sorry, when you say prayers,
Mhm.
what is the Vodou prayer also influenced by the Catholicism prayer
Yeah,
format,
yeah.
I guess?
I'm not the format per se. There's a lot of so like the Ave Maria. That is
Mm.
something that is said as well in Vodou
Okay.
prayers. Yeah. So
Oh,
that is
wow.
something that is something that is said in Vodou prayers, and it is something that is even like through a lot of Vodou songs as well. They're always emphasizing the importance of the Ave Maria.
Huh.
Something like, yeah, Toi Pater, Toi Ave Maria. So it's kind of like they even give you the number of times that you sort of like have to do these things. So there's a Catholic prayer
Mm-hmm.
that's deeply embedded in Vodou tradition. And then there's a lot of prayers as well that are in African language, whether it is Fon or like a different type of language.
Right.
Yeah, since I'm not initiated, there are certain things you're just not privy to, but you sort of know. But the things that everyone can observe, the Catholic influence in prayer is
Mm-hmm.
definitely there. The words are the same. The words have not changed.
So
Yeah.
how about the language? So, Catholic, the priests, they would sometimes they would pray in Latin.
Mm,
there's songs in
mm,
Latin, the
yeah.
Kyrie and all that in Latin. So for Vodou, do practitioner practice in their own language, or is there like kind of more universal? There's certain things that's written in a language, and a lot of people sometimes still, regardless of what language you're speaking, they would still sing the Kyrie, like for the Catholics. Is there something like that in Vodou?
So, Vodou's liturgical language is Creole or Haitian Creole.
Mm-hmm.
So the ceremonies are conducted in that language.
Uh-huh.
If the songs are in that language.
Okay.
Um, but a lot of the times there's a lot of African words in these songs, because
Okay.
the one of the things as well, I have like a colleague that I think like she would be perfect to explain that, because that's sort of like her area. She talks a lot about how languages, um these African languages were sort of like preserved
Mm.
in these songs. And in Haiti there are these historical spiritual houses, we're gonna call them. They're called laku. They have these historical spiritual houses made up of originally made up of people from different parts of Africa. And what
Okay.
they've done is they've sort of like preserved a lot of these traditions from the centuries ago. They were brought to Haiti. They sort of like preserve it. So when you put these different spiritual houses together, you can sort of see a lot of the African influences in the language as well. So even though a lot of songs are in Creole, but there are some songs that are strictly in these languages, or there's
Wow.
like a mix
Words.
of words in these
Like the
languages as well.
K-pop, they will mix English in it. No, I'm kidding.
So yeah, that's a good analogy to understand it that way. Yeah, so
Okay.
that happens.
Okay.
Yes, but yeah.
Okay. So we have another 6, 7 minutes. And I
Okay.
want to ask you this question is while you're doing your research, and I'm sure you have some background knowing
Mm,
some about Vodou before your
mm.
research. Is there anything that surprised you while you're researching into this topic?
There is something that surprised me, but I can't say it because it's gonna be part of my
Oh, the
thesis.
book.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, yeah, it's gonna be part of my thesis, but the book is
Okay.
different. But what I can say is I was more so disappointed,
Mm,
yeah, by people's action. Um,
really?
yeah,
What's their action?
I think it was
About
more
the
so there was
topic or about the religion?
about the it's kind of like both about the
Mm,
approach. Basically,
okay.
I was
Okay.
mostly disappointed by people's approach
Okay.
to the religion because I was expecting a bit more open-mindedness
Wh-
um with a lot of Haitian practitioners. I was expecting a bit more
Okay.
yeah, more open-mindedness where people
Okay.
weren't so closed off. I mean, I understand the fears, but
Oh,
yeah, I understand the fears,
okay.
but people were
Less
very
willing to
guarded.
share almost.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
People were really
It
guarded. Yeah.
Does that have anything to do with perhaps something they consider it really sacred, perhaps, or it's just the fear, you think?
Just to be clear, these people were not practitioners at all. Practitioners were very open.
Oh,
These were outsiders.
okay.
Um,
Okay.
these were like outsiders, in the sense that they were not practitioners, but they were still part of the Haitian culture. Yeah,
Mm,
but practitioners were just a breeze, like very easy to
mm-hmm.
but yeah, but of course me also it was easy for me as well. I speak the language. I'm of the
Sure.
heritage, was born in Haiti, so all of these things sort of like helped me to get access to get to know practitioners as well. But I think for me, I was shocked that what's the word to use here? People were I think fear made people act very irrational, and people
Mm,
were so very fearful about something being taken away from them, whilst not using it. Yeah.
okay.
But
Misuse, probably,
yes, yes,
and
yes.
misconstrued and
Yeah. So
just
people were
making
just
things
very,
worse, potentially.
yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
I think their effort to protect something ended
Mm-hmm.
up like breaking it, but
Okay.
then they didn't really realize that that's what was happening, or
Yeah.
they'd rather destroy than have
Right.
someone else. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So
a question about the PhD program. My last question is, so a lot of times in the US, for a PhD program, you need to do an oral defense of your dissertation for UK or university. Do you need to do oral defense of your thesis?
yes, you have to do a viva. Yeah, the oral defense. You have to do that as well. So I feel like mine will be sometime next year, the way things are going.
Yeah.
It could be earlier, but I feel like that's what it's going to look like. So I'm excited for that. I'm excited for it. It's been 4 years, so
It's a long time. It's a
Yeah,
lot of hard work, and I'm glad it's
yeah,
like your book and your thesis and oral defense
yeah,
has a target, and
yeah,
it's gonna be soon. And I actually cannot wait till the book to come out, and also cannot wait till after your thesis is done and all get passed, because then you can
yes.
talk more about it.
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely be able to talk more because yeah, just there's so much to talk about. But
But
once, you know,
I think this is so informative already, because that would get
mm,
it already gave me, some pointer to where to do my own research and get to know a little more about this. And
yeah,
so and I think I want to do more research on that. And when your thesis is done and all that, I think we should talk again. It will be really interesting.
oh, of course,
Maybe
of
I'll
course,
go to the UK with Dana to visit you in Scotland. I don't know
yeah,
if you're going to stay there, but
yeah. So
and then we'll
we'll
do a
like and
live session.
yeah, we'll do a live session, and also like I'm always in the US, so I don't know, we'll find somehow to meet. Yeah,
Brooklyn, right? You said the
yeah,
your
yeah,
collaborators in Brooklyn, New York. It's
yeah,
pretty much
Brooklyn,
easy for me to hop
yeah,
there. That'll be great.
yeah. So
It'll
we'll
be
figure it
fun.
out. Yeah,
Well, so we're at time. Thank you so much, Stephen. And
thank you.
so I hope that you come back on after your thesis or even before,
Yeah,
whenever you want, and talk
yeah.
more about it. And I might have some silly questions
We're both
sharing me
learning,
with me.
so yeah, yeah, yeah. We're both learning.
Yeah. Great. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
So thank
we
you.
have Stephen in the UK, and I'm Ronit on the East Coast, and we're hopelessly unedited, and we'll see you next time. Bye.